have this recurring nightmare where I'm running through a time portal being chased by thousands of Magic the Gathering cards, multiplying over and over again, each one with more rules text on it than the last. Oh wait, that's just the regular cadence of Magic the Gathering releases. Doctor Who is one of the Magic the Gathering sets that have recently released, and Jake and I picked through it to find our favorite Commander cards, and we shared them when we were on stream last. If you would do me a favor, think about subscribing to this video as you're watching it. Hitting that subscribe button would move you from the 70% of people that watch our videos that aren't subscribed to the 30% that are, and we would greatly appreciate it. It does more than we could possibly tell you. Give me just a second and we will be right back with our list of Doctor Who Commander cards that we like.
Highest level of gratitude to our patrons who power the channel through Patreon. Check out the Patreon link in the description to learn about monthly giveaways, VIP Discord access, and even our official playmat. Let's talk about this card. 1 white, 1 other. All creatures gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Players gain hexproof until end of turn. Players can't lose life this turn, and players can't lose the game or win the game this turn. And what's really funny is this card does not say exile everybody lives at the end of it. So you can get it back. And imagine getting this on an Isochron Scepter.
Also, I was going to say, check that casting cost. It can go on an Isochron. This card seems nutty. This card seems like it is going to salt some players into very finely brined meats. I think that hexproof being attached to this, players gaining hexproof as well, not just creatures. And for 2 mana, I mean, you can just cast this, Jake, and save any old creature they're trying to remove. Just be like, nope. That's the floor of this, is your creature gets saved perfectly. Hexproof and indestructible. The ceiling of this is you won instead of you lost. Right?
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. It's just a crazy
like a
card.
super fog, right? It's just like, yeah.
And this is the one that everybody's talking about, right? This is the card that everybody wants and everybody knows is just going to be the staple from this set. So we had to talk about it, right?
Have to talk about it. You have a card that quickly joins the ranks of Teferi's Protection, Heroic Intervention, all that stuff. It's just right up there, top tier card.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Psychic Paper. For 2, you have an artifact equipment. As Psychic Paper becomes attached to a creature, choose a creature card name and creature type.
That's the relevant part.
Yep. Equipped creature has ward 1 and can't be blocked, and its name and creature type are the last chosen name and creature type. So pretty wild, man.
The fact that it is a 2 mana equipment that then equips for 2 and it just can't be blocked straight up and gets a little mini hexproof with the ward 1. Ward 1's not going to deter much, but it is a deterrent a little bit. You're going to get into some shenanigans, being able to make any creature type, potentially any creature card name.
On the attach.
Yeah.
Which is cool too. It's not like this kind of thing where Psychic Paper gains a type until the end of the game. You know, it's like this is happening each time it becomes attached. So yeah. Stays relevant.
This is just going to be so shenanigan. I can just tell. And so any creature decks right out of the gate, any creature type decks are going to want to give this a look-see. Any Voltron is going to want to give this a look-see. 2 mana with the 2 equipped to make it unblockable, just straight up unblockable. Pretty wild. I like that one a lot. Everything Comes to Dust is a big mana spell, but that first word in the text says Convoke, and that's why it's sexy. 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow, with 3 white pips to cast this sorcery that says exile all creatures except those that share a creature type with a creature that convoked this spell. All artifacts and all enchantments. That's the exile. So you're exiling all creatures, all artifacts, and all enchantments, but the creatures that are exiled are the ones that don't share a type with the creature that convoked the spell. What I'm saying is creature type decks.
It's very good.
Want this like crazy. Creature type decks with a white pip in their color identity. This was made for you. Exile everything. This was made for you.
Yeah, I'm honestly fine with it in a tokens deck too. It's going to thrive there. You know, if you've been making a bunch of Baloths off of a rampaging Baloth or something like that, now all of a sudden you've got a bunch of 4/4s on the field.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead and just use this and just go to town with your 4/4s. This is the kind of card that, to me, is a little bit of a sleeper, and then people go, wait, Convoke is good, and this easily slots into decks that want this. Token decks.
Exactly.
Weenie decks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Travis M made a good comment there in chat, said this could totally be reprinted outside of Doctor Who, I feel, and that's a really good point. This is a card, and I like when they design these cards. Everybody Lives. I also feel like that could be, I know it's a Doctor Who reference, but I really feel like that could also be reprinted outside. And so I appreciate them taking that time, making that effort to make these reprintable, versus cards like the last Triomes run we got in Capenna, which are like named characters to that plane in the name of the land. So I like when we can get a little reprintability built into some of these cards. Because Jake, people are going to discover cyber conversion here, and they're going to be like, oh wow, is this an incredibly premium removal for 2 mana?
This is a great card. I just kind of want to like piggyback off what you were saying.
Yeah.
If a card like the last card we're talking about was called like the Doctor's Reckoning, right?
Right.
It's a lot harder to put that card into.
Becky blows up the evil robots, and you're like, well, that's not going to work in the future.
Yeah, we can't really put that into, you know, the new Phyrexia set that comes out in a couple of years, but we know that we want to reprint it somewhere. Yeah, so yes, very thoughtful with the name of these cards. Yeah, let's talk about this great blue removal spell. We have stuff like Reality Shift. We have stuff like Pongify. This card is really strong. Target creature face down. It's a 2/2 Cyberman artifact creature. Cyberman. You read that correctly? I don't really know the reference.
We don't know what that means, but it turns it into a Cyberman.
It's just like, if you have a big card with a big effect, it might just be easiest to instant speed for 2 blue. Just flip it over, and now it's a 2/2.
I love that.
Enough said.
It puts it away. It
puts it away, dude.
It's almost like face down is another type of exile, because then they've got to figure out some way to kill it. They got to chump with it, or they got to throw it into a sacrifice effect or something, because we're just gonna turn off that effect. It's like creature loses all abilities type of thing going on here. I really
shout out to Jank. Jank says Cyberman are the Borg of Doctor Who. They just convert people into cyborgs.
Nice. That's saying the leprechauns to unicorns ratio. I still don't understand what we're talking about. I know what
the Borg are. The Borg are just... We won't get into the Borg.
Flatline is a 3 mana instant that we also like. 1 blue, 2 other. Creatures your opponents control have base power and toughness 0/1 until end of turn. Dragon Lord Silumgar, given everything -1/-1. Oopsie, I just wiped your whole board for 3 mana. Is this... I know we've got to combine some other stuff. We just can't drop our life total into it. But this is reminiscent of like blue Toxic Deluge to me. It's going to bring everything down to 1, and you just got to figure out a way to finish them off.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Instant speed,
for me,
too.
Like, it pairs so well with Pestilence, right?
It's my God. Like, well, you're living the dream.
You're living the dream there.
So yeah, Flatline is borderline supreme removal. And I really think, you know, responding to an attack with this, oof.
Oh yeah. Now all of their guys are running in as 0/1s just into your like Llanowar elf that's like, and you die. Right. And you're dead, bro.
That's what I'm saying.
We're just gonna freaking slash you down with little paring knives when you get to the line. It's just like, all right, we're slaughtering the goats. Yeah, it's very strong. It's a very strong card. Nice reactive card.
Ooh, Goblin Sharpshooter. Like that's what you do.
But
you flatline, you Goblin Sharpshooter, and you're just going pew, 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 pew.
I mean, that's a wonderful, wonderful, not super mana restrictive way of doing it. That's great. That's just you cast this card, and hopefully you got Sharpshooter out there to finish the business.
Yo, check this one out, man. I still have to reread this card because every time I read it, I'm just like, this is insanity. I believe 2 blue, 2 other for a 3/3 alien zombie horror with Island Walk. Don't see Land Walk that often anymore. Love seeing that.
That's pretty sweet.
Then it has an ability called Water Always Wins that says whenever the Flood of Mars attacks, put a flood counter on another target creature or a land. If it's a creature, it becomes a copy of the Flood of Mars. And if it's a land, it becomes an island in addition to its other types. So you can have your creatures become copies of Flood of Mars. And so you can spread the Flood of Mars sideways and create a lot of alien zombie horrors. And then every time they're attacking, they are giving the land to the opponent that is needed to make them unblockable. And so this is a casual card because it's kind of slow, but it seems really fun. And you just be like, oh my God, I've gotten defeated by the Flood of Mars.
This gives me Runechanter's Pike vibes, hardcore, right?
Yeah, dude.
Because we're trying to get, and it's very easy to turn somebody's land into an island with this card, and then we're just getting through with it. But yeah, the thing is when you're cracking on in with a 3/3, that's kind of a bummer. But as soon as you put a Runechanter's Pike on it, we've got a threat.
Now we're cooking.
If we can get through with a Flood of Mars with Runechanter's Pike, this is built into the right kind of deck, which I think it runs alongside stuff like, like Aetherling and that kind of stuff. I do think it's a casual card. It's easy to kill, but we could say that about so many cards, right?
Yeah, lots of creatures.
That's right. A board very quickly fills up, and yeah, this can get out of hand.
Yeah,
cool.
I was also then going to talk about it, not just on the offense, but in a defense capacity as well. BuzzFuzz said it there in chat. You can transform your opponent's creatures as well. We just talked about the offensive capabilities, but it becoming a copy of the Flood of Mars, suddenly my entire deck revolves around my commander's ability.
Yes.
Is now a 3/3 that can turn things into islands. Now, granted, if they then get to attack with their flood, the flood spreads. So the floods will just get everywhere. But it can also be an interesting removal. I just think this is really cool. This card actually makes me want to go watch this one episode because it seems kind of up my alley if it's kind of sci-fi and kind of horror, and I think that's kind of cool. I think that could be cool. So I like Flood of Mars. Also, I'm interested in Hunted by the Family, Jake. I know I put this one on the list. Did you see this one?
No, I'll read it. 2 blue, 5 other. I do remember this red balloon.
Yeah.
2 blue, 5 other. Choose up to 4 target creatures you don't control. For each of them, that creature's controller faces a villainous choice. That creature becomes a 1/1 white human creature and loses all abilities, or you create a token that's a copy of it. Yeah, there's some stuff going on here. Big effect here for 7 mana.
Yeah.
When you get to this kind of casting cost, you have to start looking at stuff like Expropriate, right? Like things that are really, high cost, big effects. Is it a big enough effect? It's pretty cool removal in blue.
Yeah, that's why I like it. It's not going to win you the game. You're right. And if you're casting one spell for 7 mana, it better damn near close win you the game.
Backbreaker, right?
Right. And so this one doesn't have that backbreaker feel to it, but I still like it because it's very political. It doesn't restrict you to like one opponent, one creature choice. I can choose all 4 creatures from you if I want to, or I can go 2 and 2 or 2/1/1 or whatever I want to do here. And then it's either like that thing is now just a 1/1 straight up, or I also get one as well. Let's get nuts.
Yeah. So obviously they
Fun
are
politics.
going to give you whatever their manageable stuff is, right?
Exactly.
That's where this card falls short, is like it does give them a choice, but any of the stuff that's going to be extremely difficult gets turned into a 1/1. So interesting card, cool card. Next up, we have Reverse the Polarity. For 2 blue and 1 other, we have a modal card. It's an instant speed. Choose one. Counter all other spells. Switch each creature's power and toughness until end of turn, and creatures can't be blocked this turn. I like that can't be blocked, and counter all other spells is relevant too. The one in the middle, I think it's going to have some niche application that'll probably be the least chosen mode, but sometimes switching around power and toughness can be a way to clean things up.
I like that. It's the 2 modes, the counter all other spells and creatures can't be blocked this turn. That's probably what you're going to use mostly. I really think that this one's going to give some fun options to creature attacking decks that are in blue. This one will be a fun one to be a counter spell, but it's also an offense. So it's a defense and an offense modal card. And so I think as an instant, it's a really good choice. Vashta Narada is another one that just kind of gets nuts if you let it live too long. A black and 2 other for an indestructible 1/1 with shadow.
Oh man, how did I not see this? This card is good. I like this.
Indestructible with shadow, and it says at the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Vashta. The thing is, you don't have to wait that long. Some of the best +1/+1 counter decks have black in the commander color identity. You get 1 +1/+1 counter on Vashta, and suddenly we're off to the races. They've got
and it's each
exile.
It's each, so it just kind of sits there like a black Tauren. What is the card? The red changeling, Tauren Marauder. It just kind of sits there and just
Taurian,
casually
the changeling.
Tauren Mauler. Yeah. I don't know why I got that wrong. But yes, this is one of those cards that just sits there, right? It's even the same casting cost. So it's like you have to get it with -1/-1 counters, or you are UCKED. Yeah, you're in trouble.
You're
in trouble.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool, generically good black creature. Obviously it's going to thrive in +1/+1 counter decks so that you can get that amped and ramped hard, fast. But I think it's also going to thrive in aristocrat decks as a beater. It's not on theme, but you can take advantage of what you're already going to be doing synergistically, sacking tokens. Just sack 1 on your turn, then 1 on their turn, then 1 on their turn, then 1 on their turn, then 1 on your turn. And this alien horror that has to be exiled is just growing like crazy and punching through. 1 cycle through, you're on 4 counters, right? Or you could get 1 on your and be 5 by the time you're attacking with this thing.
That's what I like about this card is when you get in a clogged up board state, you look to cards like this to see, how do I close out the game? Another shout out to Runechanter's Pike, and that's all I'll say. It's just like anything that has unblockable or pseudo unblockable.
Right.
I'm just like, figure out a way to get an equipment on it. Put this thing with, like, Pike aside, put a good sword on it. Something like that. Use an equipment on this card because this is the kind of card that wants it.
Ooh, Jank, that's a really good point. Jank commented, Volrath the Shapeshifter loves this guy. Any cards, any of those creatures that like take the form of something else that's in the graveyard, that kind of thing. This is a hell of a creature to copy. Hell of a creature to copy. Holy crap.
And any sort of, doubling season type effect that's going to make sure.
It is indestructible. It's not legendary. I just noticed that this thing is not legendary. For some reason, that hadn't even been registering in my brain. Start cloning this thing. And my sweet Vashta Narada.
And then you make sure that you have some sort of hexproof effect to make sure that nobody does anything to them.
Dude.
This card can just be a blowout.
I like that card. I like that card a lot. Jake, what about Decaying Time Loop here?
So this, to me, seems like a pretty strong card at instant speed. This is just going to go into any sort of wheels type strategy, or if someone needs to fill up the graveyard, this is a card for them. It's like a super faithless looting. It's just a wheel effect. It's just an instant speed good wheel effect. When I look at wheel effects, I'm typically like looking at sorcery speed stuff, right? This is instant speed and it has retrace. I'm a fan, dude. Fan. I think that a lot of people are going to like this card, and getting that redundancy out of it, being able to do it again, is a big deal.
After Baldur's Gate came out, I played the Raphael Demons and Devils deck for a while. I built it as a demon reanimator thing. Get a giant demon in the graveyard, reanimate it. Pretty classic. Because Raphael could then come in after I had reanimated something the turn before. I have a big like 7/7 in the air or something. Raphael hits, gives it lifelink, and suddenly I'm getting chunks back as I'm swinging. Anyway, the getting cards in the graveyard can sometimes be a stumbling block for decks like that. when you just kind of assume that there's going to be a ton of great cards to just fill your graveyard up automatically, but it can be a job that you've got to pull off sometimes. Cards like this, yeah, I would have run this card in that deck so that I could just pitch the 5 in my hand, draw 5 more, and now I'm ready to reanimate with some of the cards that I've drawn. So yeah, I think again the Retrace 2 gives it some longevity in Commander.
I want to say this really quick because someone earlier in this segment did say, yeah, I really like that all of these cards have been tastefully put into an MTG set instead of all of this IP needing to be its own game.
Thumbs
Magic
up
the
for
Gathering.
Universes Beyond, bro.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it, dude. I know like early on people were a little bit resistant. People were like, please don't let that happen to my game. But when you have other fandoms like this, that like 99.9% chance it's going to die if it gets its own card game, right? Magic, it gets to live.
Right.
Let's move on.
No. I'm completely with you. Just to
Yeah.
ride that tangent for another half second. I think that a lot of the early resistance to it was because it was presented for the first time in a time-boxed purchase that had to be purchased right then, or it was never going to be purchasable again. And so you had resistance to crossover IPs as Magic cards, and you had resistance to limited time purchase windows, but they've wholly eliminated that as a concern with Secret Lair. That's not really their approach with Secret Lair anymore. Even though it is still time boxed, you've got a whole month or more to get it. So yeah. I think as people get IPs that they actually like, they're going to go, oh, it's not that bad. And they're going to realize they were being selfish and not thinking about other people.
I mean, we have a buddy that, jumped back into Magic when Lord of the Rings came around, and he was like, I'm not going to mess with these decks, but, and I know I complained about Walking Dead, but I did buy the Lord of the Rings stuff. Saying. So yeah, anyway, this card, Delete, we have a sorcery speed, 2 red and X. Delete deals X damage to each non-artifact creature and each player. It's like kind of like Earthquake vibes, right?
Yeah, it is Earthquake vibes. This has been a theme over the last 2 years. There have been more and more. They can't just keep printing board wipe, or they'll just have a bunch of redundant, all the same cards. And so they've been printing board wipes with gates through the middle of them for certain things, with pathways to save, to not taking the damage or not being wiped. We looked at one already in this segment. Delete for artifact creature decks is going to be huge. This is just another way to burn them down, save your side of the battlefield because you came prepared. You're only running this in an artifact creature deck so that your creatures dodge delete. But the more the merrier as far as I'm concerned with these board wipes that go into specific archetypes. I like that. I'm a big fan of
this
it.
This helps end the game too. I love that it's doing it to each player.
And each player,
That's
yes, dude.
Such a big effect. You could put this in red green. You could put this into like a big mana, just like you're running a bunch of fast mana type stuff, and make this card relevant. You want to be able to cast it for a lot, in my opinion, but modal stuff like this where you can kind of flex, it has flexibility, which is good. Yeah, fun little card.
Yeah, I like Jank's comment. It totally trolls the Solemn Simulacrum player because it's like, sorry, you don't get the trigger off that thing dying because it's not gonna die.
That's right.
Displaced Dinosaurs I think is going to turn into one of the most cheatable onto the field cards in the entire set. 7 mana for a 7/7. It says, as a historic permanent enters the battlefield under your control, it becomes a 7/7 dinosaur creature in addition to its other types. Let's count what historic permanents are. Every single artifact, every single legendary, and also sagas, who cares? You create a food token. Oopsie, it's a 7/7. You create a treasure clue, whatever. Oopsie, it's a 7/7. This one is going to combo hell, bro. This one is going to just like combine this with Dockside Extortionist, and you've created 800 7/7 dino creatures with haste.
Yeah, because you have to have fervor out there or an effect
Sure,
like that. You
sure.
want to make sure that you
Rhythm of the
have
Wild.
haste. You got to have haste.
Yes.
But this card is an absolute just a lightning rod. You got to deal with it because it will get out of hand quickly.
So quickly.
And yes, food, any sort of little dinky token like that, artifact token, is going to be a big problem if you're able to swing with it in that moment.
Give me my silly Timmy stuff. That's what I want. The Sisterhood of Karn is a little less Timmy, but still kind of Timmy. 2 mana for a 0/0, enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, and whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, double the number of +1/+1 counters on Sisterhood of Karn. Any card, any deck that is exiling in them, and you can cast them from exile, your commander. There's a lot of things that are going to trigger Sisterhood of Karn, and it's not just add a counter to, it is double the number of counters on.
Fun little bear here, or not a bear, casting cost of a bear, but this could get out of hand pretty quickly. This could get out of hand quickly. I don't typically gravitate toward decks like this. This is not
your kind
my
of thing.
alley.
This is my kind of
it's
thing.
an interesting card. Interesting card.
This is, I'm going to play Sisterhood of Karn. Because of this card, it's going to enter with the extra +1/+1 counter on it. I'm going to dump 3 more on it over the course of just some regular stuff. Cast my commander. Now it's a 10/10. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, we're not going to be casting. We don't necessarily have to be casting spells from anywhere other than our hand too many times if we're building this correctly, because all we need to do is double up once, maybe twice, and suddenly, if we make that thing like unblockable, we're in business.
Yeah, next up we have Alistar the Brigadier. We have 1 blue, 1 white, 1 green, and 1 other for a 3/3. Whenever you cast a historic spell, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. And whenever it attacks, you may pay 8. And if you do, creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of historic permanents you control. So this seems like an easy build around as a commander.
Yes.
To just really get a ton of value and then go to town with that 8 cost ability there. Just your board is going wide whenever you cast a historic spell. I think that's pretty strong, and yeah, it's really easy to bolster those guys up.
Yep. Soldier creature type, might want to take a peek at this too if this is what you want to build. Getting artifacts or legendary enchantments like the flowering of the white tree that are going to trigger Alistar, that are going to pump your board at the same time. Look for cards like that. Look for legendaries that pump your board, that give anthems, because you're going to get out of hand pretty nuts and pretty quick. I saw this card too, Jake. This one was one of your picks, but I think that it is going to be a really fun one. I also think that this is going to be a fun one. I can't believe you didn't pull this one, because this does seem right up your alley, because this is basically active treason the commander. The Beast, Deathless Prince, 1 red, 1 black, 2 other for a 6/6. When you cast this spell, gain control of target creature until end of turn, untap it. It gains menace and haste. The Beast enters the battlefield tapped with 6 stun counters on it. And so that's if it would become untapped. You remove a stun counter from it instead. And then whenever a creature deals combat damage to its owner, untap the Beast and draw a card. So instead of untapping it, you remove a stun counter and you draw a card. So you're working toward it being a attackable creature, but this feels like a steal and sacrifice kind of deck. You constantly want to be stealing their stuff so that we can trigger that bottom ability, draw some cards.
Yeah, I think this is fun too. Drawing cards is always a good time, and then you get the payoff of a big 6/6 at the end of it. Legendary creature, so it can be your commander if you want to try and build around this thing. I think it's neat. I think it's a casual, fun spell. Pretty neat. Pretty neat card.
I like this one. Any rob the cradle, rob the crib robber. What was that one from the very first Eldraine? The 1 mana steal a creature that's like 3 or less or something. And it was in the same format as the witch oven, so you could just steal their little creature and throw it in the oven. Any commander deck that can
claim the firstborn.
Claim the firstborn, yes, dude. Any commander that can arguably run claim the firstborn, I'm in. I'm in.
I do wish it had more of like a payoff once it did untap. You know, I mean, it
can't be blocked or flying and trample or something.
Flying trample would be good. Cult of Scaro. We have Grixis and one other for legendary artifact creature. It's one of the Dalek cards. It's a 4/4. Whenever Cult of Scaro attacks, choose one at random. It has they put a 1/1 counter on each artifact creature you control. Can draw 2 cards. Sack, which is create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with menace. And what is that? Fast?
Fast, I think.
Each opponent loses 4 life. A lot of modes here from these salt shakers.
Yeah, these salt shakers are the scariest salt shakers I've ever seen. I think that the Daleks here are a pretty fun little Grixis commander. Attacking
Darlick.
Random.
They're pronounced Darlick.
There's no way it's pronounced Darlick. I'm never gonna say Darlick when I see that word. I'm just not going to. I'm sorry. Attacks, you're choosing at random. This is obviously a fun casual commander, but armies of Daleks, that's pretty cool. I'm a fan of all the modes. None of the modes are a miss. You're growing or you're drawing or each opponent is losing. But obviously you wish that you could choose, but I do like having a little Grixis commander there that can get down and dirty if you want it to. For some reason in this set there were a lot of dinosaur cards. I guess it's an episode and there was just a lot to pull from.
There's a dinosaur episode, yeah.
Got it. So this one's called Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. In my opinion, it's actually really good. Boros +4 for a 7/7 Vigi Trample. It says other dinosaurs you control get +1/+1, have Vigi and Trample. Hey, y'all, we're about to go to a dinosaur plane. Guess what card might shoot up in the short term? Think about it. Suspend 4 for 5. Whenever a time counter is removed from Dinosaurs on a Spaceship while it's exiled, you create a 2/2 with flying and haste dinosaur. Okay. And then when it comes in, it turns them into 3/3 flying vigilant trample dinosaurs. I don't know. This just seems really fun, and we're about to go to Dinosaur World. So this
is the name of the episode. Someone is saying the Blocks guy says Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, literal name of the episode.
Oh, really? Well, this is right up my alley. As you can see, I'm super timmying out over the whole set, but putting 8 power on the battlefield as it's suspended and then it enters, and the only thing missing is that it itself doesn't have haste for the entire payoff to really give you something strong. But I think that Anthem relating to the creature type dinosaur, I think people are going to be interested in this card.
I like that Vigi. Vigi and Trample is nothing to shake a stick at. And you don't want to shake a stick at a dinosaur.
No, you do not.
Next up, we have Great Intelligence's Plan. 1 black, 1 blue, and 4 other. Draw 3 cards. Then target opponent faces a villainous choice. They discard 3 cards, or you may cast a spell from your hand without paying its mana cost.
Oh, yeah, dude.
They discard 3, or you may cast a spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. I feel like most of the time you're going to be casting something without paying its mana cost. No one really wants to discard 3 cards.
3 is a chunk, man. 3 is a chunk,
man.
It is not nothing. And so I feel like even if this was 2, I'd just be like, I'll just discard 2 cards. But going down 3, and you can pick which opponent. You just go for the opponent that has like 4 or 5 cards in hand, and you're like, hey, can I take you out of the game, or can I have a free spell from my hand? Because they don't know what it's going to be. You may cast a spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. You could have Omniscience in your hand, and you're just going for game win, because you're just going to cast your whole hand, draw your entire deck. Bang, bang,
that's
boom.
A good point. Like if you're running this in something where you have a Reliquary Tower type effect and you're just drawing all the cards, it's a lot more oppressive.
I think that this will be a really fun uncommon for people to...
It is a fun uncommon.
The villainous choice thing. I like that politics.
It is expensive.
Yeah.
It is an expensive card. It's a casual card.
For sure.
But it's fun.
Yeah. We can have fun in EDH too. And I'll tell you what's going to be fun. Or maybe not.
Another 6 cost.
Yeah, keeping track of this 6 cost. Well, this card would get... It's already bonkers, and if it was any cheaper than 6, I don't think that it would be legal very long. 4/3 Time Lord Rogue for Rakdos and 4. It's It's got Myriad, which means when it attacks, you're creating token copies of it for each opponent that it could attack that it's not already attacking. I think that's how that's worded. The legend rule doesn't apply to creature tokens you control, so you don't have to sack any of the copies of the master when the master comes into the battlefield. And then triggered abilities you control can't cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens you control. So the Myriad tokens would typically go away after everything is done and your turn is over. But with the master on the battlefield, you do not have to sack any of the tokens. It is all in hardcore. You've got to protect your OG master, because if OG, or really you've just got to keep at least one master on the battlefield, because they're all copies, and so they all say that triggered abilities you control can't cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens. But oh my lordy, I feel like this one could get out of
wait a minute, help me out here. Do they all have Myriad?
Yes.
They do?
Yes.
Oh god. Okay. Yeah, this is stupid. I wouldn't be able to play it because I'm not smart enough. But it does seem like a really strong card. It has some Matrix vibes. I like that green and red.
Yeah.
I'm not super smart, but I do know when I like colors that are next to each other. And that green and red looks really, really snappy on this one.
I like that he's got Joel's fashion sense, jeans, t-shirt, hoodie. Really straightforward how I like to dress here. But I'm telling you, this one...
Idris does love it. Yes.
You're in the right, exactly, dude. You're in the right colors to get into some graveyard shenanigans if you want to. It doesn't have to be out of the command zone to be a huge player in a game, because you can tutor it up, put it in the graveyard, resurrect it, whatever you... I mean, give it haste. The things are sacking, or they're not sacking because they don't have to sack. Yeah, it's just...
You don't see it, but he's wearing Crocs.
Yeah, there you go. He has my perfect fashion sense.
Okay, there is an alter in the future of this card that is simply extending the pants and adding the white Crocs, and then we're there, baby.
Yeah.
I think this is funny. Travis M says this is going to be that deck.
Yes, exactly.
With air quotes around that. And I think so. It does seem like if you build around this, it can just be so stupid.
Make
just
sure it's
so
haste.
Incredibly
You're in the right
stupid.
colors to make sure it's haste. Right.
Yeah.
Blitz, anything with blitz. Yeah. This card is nuts. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to see somebody kill me with it or me win. Next up, we've got Arya Stark, I guess, in Doctor
This name
Who.
is a trap, so don't get it wrong.
Me, the Immortal.
Is it me? Is it May? Is it Ma?
It's me, the Immortal.
Okay.
It is a red, a blue, and a green, and 2 for a 3/3. Human Rogue. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice. So this happens at the beginning of combat, so you can play this in your main phase 1 and get your triggers. Beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice of a +1/+1 first strike, vigilant, or menace counter on me. Counters remain on me as it moves to any zone other than hand or library. So when it dies and goes back to the command zone, it's going to keep counters on it. It's kind of like a Skullbriar in that sense. And then you may cast me from your graveyard by discarding 2 cards in addition to paying its other costs. So in a deck with the right color to keep your hand full as hell, you can just let this die and go to the graveyard and recast it for 5 over and over and over and over just by discarding 2 cards. I think that this one's got some play. Get that first strike, get that vigilance, get that menace on it, and then you just start dumping +1/+1 counters and rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Jeez, it's another one of these cards where it's just, I'm just not smart enough to play it. You have to move stuff around. There's counters. You have to use math.
Yep.
It's just easily top tier hardest cards for me to understand, but it does look very cool.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
I think that this will be a cool commander to build around.
Ozolith add hexproof.
Oh yeah, exactly. Jake, you want to hit us off with this Cyberman card here?
Yeah, 7 cost, 5/5. We have an artifact creature, Cyberman. Non-legendary artifact creatures you control have Myriad. There we go, baby. If we are playing big artifacts, let's think of stuff like Mirror Battlesphere. Any of that kind of stuff, we're going to be getting in with some big effects. Cool card. I think it's pretty sweet.
You remember the card Cyberdrive Awakener from Neon Dynasty that turned all your non-artifact creatures into artifact creatures out of nowhere, and you could just win the game that way? This one feels like the same kind of thing to me. I think this could win you the game. that myriad rule, whenever a creature with myriad attacks for each opponent other than the one you're attacking, you may create a token that's a copy of that creature that's tapped and attacking. So you just get your board to a state where it's definitely going to win when you attack. Maybe you play delete right before you're ready to go. Maybe you play Cyberman Squadron as the surprise.
Yuck.
And suddenly,
dude, I like the idea of swinging with worm coils and then having a sack outlet for them in the second main. That way we can just turn them into baby worms.
Yo,
get around the myriad.
Just get like 30 or 40 Thopters in the air and then drop this, and then you have 30 or 40 Thopters going at every player on the table.
This card's pretty nasty. Yeah. I like mid-power commanders. So when cards are 5 to 7 cost, it doesn't bother me that much. You just have to make sure that you're not pumping your deck full of stuff like that. But having stuff like this at your top end because you want to play it, or it seems fun, or it seems good, that's what Commander's about. Commander, the whole point of it in the beginning was to play those big splashy spells that otherwise never really get to get played.
Beer,
and so this is a fun card
peanuts and play cards that don't get played. That was the point of Commander.
It was beer, it was peanuts, and to play cards that don't get played. And it was never in any specific order, but it was always about beer and peanuts and cards that don't get played first.
To our earlier point, at least this one could be a game winner. When you pay the 7 and it hits the battlefield, that could be the game. Those are our picks for Commander cards from Doctor Who, another MTG set, trademark Wizards of the Coast 2023. Let us know in the comments if there were any that you loved that we didn't include on our list.